Around Christmas time, one of the passages that is widely read throughout different Christian congregations is Isaiah chapter 9, verses 6 and 7. This is kind of a passage that has become deeply embedded in how we think and talk about Christmas. Unto us a child is born. This is the heart and soul of Christmas. Jesus Christ being born in this world to live a life, to die and to resurrect and to atone for the sins of mankind. But unfortunately, in reading these verses, we tend to rush through them and we tend to not see what is actually being said in these very powerful verses. Not only is a child being born into the world, not only is this child Jesus Christ, but this child has a role to play in human history that is described for us in these very verses. So today, what I would like to do is I'd like to read these verses, and I want to draw out the glorious realities that are contained in these verses that many times we either don't read or we try to change what they say to accommodate a particular theological conviction. Isaiah chapter 9, starting in verse 6. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end. On the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. So, what's very interesting is most people focus on, for unto us a child is born, and they stop there. But the crux of this entire passage is not simply that a child is born, but that this child will have the government on his shoulders, and that the increase of his government and of peace, there will be no end. Brothers and sisters, this is a prophecy about Jesus Christ coming into the world to bring a kingdom that grows, a kingdom that spreads, a kingdom that results in peace across this world. Now, our dispensational friends, they place a gap, they throw the church age in between verse 6 and 7. Unto us a child is born happened in the first century. Increase of his government happens in our future. But that simply is not what the text says. The text says of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish and to uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. So the question now is, what does it mean by this time? Well, where in this passage is there a timeline given? The timeline is given at the beginning of verse 6. For unto us a child is born. Is born. Christ's birth is the this time. There's no other way to read it. If you take away for unto us a child is born, you just have that the government will be on his shoulders, the names that he will be called, and that his government will increase. But the this time forth is clearly referencing something earlier in the passage that gives us a time reference. And the time reference is, for unto us a child is born. The birth of Jesus Christ is the start of this glorious reality. The birth of Jesus Christ is the inauguration of the new creation, the new covenant. It's no accident that when you arrive at the Gospel of John, he opens with the words, "In the beginning was the Word." And it calls our mind to Genesis, where God said, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth through the prophet Moses. John is clearly drawing a correlation between the creation of the cosmos and the birth of Jesus Christ. The Word became flesh. And God created the world in 7 days. And in John, he first introduces us to Jesus by giving us the first 7 days of his ministry, followed by the words, the next day, and the next day, and the next day. So why is it that John starts with the words in the beginning and then details the first 7 days of Christ's ministry? It's because John is showing us that this is not just the birth of the one who comes to take away the sins of the world. This is not just the birth of the one who comes as God in the flesh. This is the beginning and the inauguration of a new creation, a new order, a new way of life. And he demonstrates this through his language. In the beginning was the Word, the next day, the next day, the next day. Brothers and sisters, Jesus Christ did not come to die, to go away for a couple thousand years, and to come again to be a king. Jesus Christ came to be a king. When Pontius Pilate asks him, "Are you a king?" Jesus says, "You say rightly that I am a king. For this purpose I have come into the world." Jesus came to be king. And Jesus rose with all authority in heaven and on earth and ascended to the right hand of the Father, where he sits and he rules until all enemies have been made a footstool for his feet. Don't look out in the world and be deceived into thinking that what is going on out there is somehow a takeover, an evil takeover. Brothers and sisters, our Lord is reigning. And he reigns through salvation and through judgment. And when a nation becomes wicked, that is a nation that is being judged, my friends. That is not a nation prospering. The kingdom of darkness cannot grow. It can only crumble. And it crumbles in on itself through its own depravity, through its own abandonment of the way that the world works through God's created and perfect design. When we reject the Creator and we reject his design and go our own way, that is God handing us over to a depraved mind so that we might be condemned. Don't look outside, brothers and sisters, and for one moment think that the devil has the upper hand. The only thing that you should see outside your window is the sovereign hand of Christ the King, who is both bringing salvation and judgment throughout human history. What you see is the increase of his government and the increase of his peace. And it will end with all enemies subdued under his feet. And it started from this time, at the birth of Christ, forevermore. It will never end. And brothers and sisters, you and me, joined together in Jesus Christ by faith, united to him, will share in the divine life for all of eternity. To quote Lewis, going further up and further in, every day, forever and ever and ever and ever. Our life lasts as long as the life of God lasts, which is forever. It's in his nature. He is existence. His essence is his existence. And so we will live in his life forever. And that starts now. And Christ is reigning now. So when we think about Christmas, when we think about the words, "Unto us a child is born," we needn't stop with the child being born. We need to take it all the way to its conclusion, which is that this child will have the government on his shoulders. And Jesus has the government on his shoulders. And that the increase of his kingdom His power, His plan, His redemption, His justice will never end, and He will not rest until justice has been established in the earth. And that, my brothers and sisters, is a reason to celebrate the incarnation. Thanks for watching that video. If you like the work that I do, please consider becoming a patron for as little as $5 a month and signing up for my email newsletter. It's free. Both of those things can be found in the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching.